2 days after the call, Queen Selene Arcturus arrived on Reach. Unlike her first meeting with Kenny, this visit was not diplomatic. There were no fleets, no formal delegations, no political broadcasts, just the Queen and a single companion. Her shadow, the woman who had served beside her for nearly a decade, a confidant, advisor, bodyguard, friend. The shuttle settled onto one of Reach's civilian landing platforms beneath the twin suns. The moment the hatch opened, Selene stepped out and found herself staring across one of the most beautiful worlds she had ever seen. Not because of the buildings, not because of the technology, because of the people. People laughed, talked, smiled. Children ran through public parks. Families sat together near cafes. Workers greeted each other by name. The atmosphere felt healthy. The shadow noticed it too. "I understand why everyone talks about this place." Selene nodded. "It feels different." The two began walking through the city. Several locals recognized the Queen immediately. Many waved, some approached politely. Nobody seemed fearful. Nobody acted like they were meeting royalty. The shadow noticed that too. They don't worship power here. Selene smiled. No, they respect it. The distinction mattered. As they continued through the streets, they overheard dozens of conversations. One elderly man sat outside a bakery speaking to a friend. Reach wouldn't be Reach without Kenny. A woman nearby laughed. "Half the things around here are named after people he lost." Another nodded. "Never lets anyone get forgotten." Further ahead, a group of academy students were talking. "He could have built a palace. He lives in a cave, technically a cave mansion." The group laughed. The shadow glanced toward Selene. Either he's running the greatest propaganda operation in history. A pause. Or they genuinely love him. Selene smiled. "I think we both know which one it is." Eventually, one of the city guides pointed them toward a large park overlooking Calder's Bay. "He's over there." The guide smiled. "School visit." The Queen thanked him and continued onward. As they approached, voices became audible. Dozens of them. Children. Selene slowed, then stopped. Ahead of them sat Kenny, cross-legged beneath a massive shade tree, surrounded by perhaps 50 children ranging from 5 to 15 years old. A school excursion, a Q&A session. Kenny had his back toward them and clearly hadn't noticed they arrived. The children were completely captivated. One young girl raised her hand. "What are the two sons called?" Kenny smiled. "Rexus and Jaxus." Several children immediately nodded. One boy frowned. "Why?" Kenny looked toward the sky. The twin suns burned brightly overhead. Then his expression softened slightly. "They're named after two brothers." The children became quieter. The Queen listened. "Brothers?" Kenny nodded. "Twins." A pause. "Good men." Another. "The bravest men I've ever met." The children listened carefully. Kenny pointed toward the horizon. "You know Calder's Bay?" Every child nodded. "It's named after their family." A small girl blinked. "Really?" Kenny smiled. "Really?" The wind moved softly through the park. Kenny continued. "They stood beside me during eclipse." Another pause. "They saved my life more than once." The children listened quietly. They gave everything for their friends. Another pause. "So Reach remembers them." Silence settled over the group. Even Selene felt it. The sincerity, the respect. No grand speech, no dramatic performance, just honesty. Eventually, another child raised his hand. "What happens when people die?" The question surprised several teachers. Not Kenny. He thought about it, then answered. "They live in stories." The children listened. "They live in places." Another pause. "They live in memories." Kenny smiled. "And as long as people remember them." He pointed toward the twin sons. They, quote, never really gone." The Queen found herself smiling. The shadow quietly looked toward her. The expression on Selene's face told her everything. The woman was gone. Absolutely gone. One of the children suddenly spotted the Queen. Eyes widened. Then more children noticed. Gasps spread through the group. A little boy pointed. "She's pretty." The entire group immediately burst into laughter. The poor boy turned bright red. Selene laughed. Kenny finally turned around, noticing her, noticing the shadow. A faint smile appeared. "Well." He stood. "Didn't expect you this early." The Queen smiled. "I wanted to surprise you. Mission accomplished." The children swarmed around her immediately. Questions, greetings, excitement. The shadow looked completely overwhelmed. Eventually, Kenny rescued them. "Come on." He gestured for them to follow. Walk with me. The afternoon became one long conversation. They crossed parks, gardens, markets, training districts. The Queen asked questions. Kenny answered them, sometimes seriously, sometimes not. Eventually, the conversation drifted toward the marriage proposal. Celine looked toward him. You've been thinking. A little. The shadow snorted. A little. Kenny ignored her, then finally spoke. I'm interested. Celine tried very hard not to look too excited, failed, spectacularly. Kenny noticed. The shadow noticed. Everyone noticed. The Queen cleared her throat. You are? Kenny nodded. But, the Queen groaned. There's always a but. I want a relationship first. Silence. The Queen blinked. Kenny continued. If we're going to marry? Another pause. We should actually know who we're marrying. The shadow immediately smiled. Very approving, very mature. The Queen looked thoughtful, then nodded. That's fair. Kenny pointed toward her. I know Queen Celine. Another pause. I don't know Celine. The Queen smiled softly. And I know Lord Reach. A pause. But not Kenny, exactly. The conversation continued. Eventually they arrived at one of Reach's Dawn Leaf recovery clinics. The building stood overlooking a lake. Simple, beautiful, peaceful. The Queen looked curious. This is one of the rehabilitation centers? Kenny nodded. The biggest. The shadow glanced toward the sign. What exactly happens here? Kenny smiled. Come see. Inside, the atmosphere felt unlike a hospital. Warm, comfortable, safe. The staff welcomed Kenny immediately. Several patients greeted him by name. The Queen noticed that. He wasn't their ruler here. He was someone they trusted. A therapist approached. Kenny explained briefly. The woman smiled, then invited them into a session. The Queen and her shadow participated. At first nothing happened, just tea, conversation, breathing exercises. Then came the Dawn Leaf treatment, a carefully prepared extract made from the leaves discovered through Pine's research. Not enough to alter reality, not enough to remove memory, just enough to help people look at pain without being consumed by it. The session lasted over an hour. The Queen found herself speaking about fears she hadn't acknowledged in years. Her shadow spoke about losses she'd carried since childhood. The therapists guided them carefully, patiently, helping them unpack burdens they had simply learned to carry. When it ended, both women sat quietly. The memories remained. Nothing had vanished, but the weight felt different, manageable, understandable. The shadow wiped away tears, not sad tears, relieved ones. The Queen looked genuinely stunned. That. She struggled for words. Actually helped. Kenny nodded. It usually does. The Queen looked around the clinic, then finally understood. Not the value, the responsibility. Why Kenny protected the dawn fruit so fiercely, why entire governments wanted it, why he refused to weaponize it. The treatment wasn't about power, it was about healing. When they finally stepped outside, the evening sun was setting. The Queen looked toward him. Thank you. The shadow nodded. Seriously. Kenny shrugged. No problem. Hours later, they arrived at Kenny's residence. The mountain home overlooked Reach's capital. Light stretched endlessly below. The shadow excused herself first. I'm sleeping. Nobody argued. The woman vanished almost immediately, leaving Kenny and Celine alone on one of the observation balconies. The stars slowly emerged overhead. For a while they simply sat together, talking, learning, listening. No politics, no kingdoms, just people. Eventually the Queen looked toward him. I'm not trying to steal your planets. Kenny smiled slightly. I know. The Queen blinked. Then why are you worried? Kenny leaned back, looking toward the stars. When he finally answered, his voice was calm. It's not my planets I'm worried about. The Queen frowned. What does that mean? Kenny looked toward her. If we become official. A pause. If we genuinely fall in love. Another. If we get married. The Queen listened carefully. Kenny continued. And I die. Silence. You don't just inherit my worlds. Another pause. You inherit my war. The realization hit immediately. The Queen froze. Kenny continued quietly. My father won't care who owns Reach. Another pause. He'll care who stands in his way. The Queen slowly looked away. Nobody on her world had considered that. Not once. Not fully. The danger suddenly felt very real. Very personal. Kenny watched her carefully. Are you sure? The question lingered. The Queen thought about it. Actually thought about it. then finally nodded. Yes. A pause. I am. Another. But I'm definitely more scared now. That made Kenny laugh. Celine laughed too. The tension eased. The stars continued shining overhead. The city glowed below. The conversation drifted, then drifted closer, and closer still. By the time midnight arrived, they sat side by side, the distance between them gone. No rulers, no politics, no houses, just Kenny and Celine. And before the night ended, they quietly agreed to something. Not an engagement, not a marriage, not yet. A relationship, private, between them. For now. The future would come later. Tonight was simply the beginning.